Hello, my name is Don Harkey with Galt Consulting, and I wanted to bring you some success stories today for our Passion is Productive mini training session. I have some great stories that highlight some great principles on how companies can be successful and really utilize their people on the principle that passion truly is productive. We'll begin with a client of mine that manufactures cultured marble vanities and cultured marble products. I was walking around their shop one day when I looked over into the corner and there was a pallet sitting in the corner. On top of the pallet were some cultured marble pieces that looked like the insides of a bucket, all stacked neatly on top of this pallet. I looked to a nearby operator and I said, "Hey, what is this?" And he looked at me and he says, "Well, don't worry about that. That's always there." I kind of pressed farther a little bit, and what I found out was whenever they make, and during the process, they had a little bit of extra waste. That waste would be poured into these 5-gallon buckets, and at the end of the day, they'd pop them out, put them on these pallets, and then at the beginning of the next day, they'd throw them out in the back dumpster. Of course, this is wasteful, and the engineer in me said, "Boy, we can fix that, and let's find out how much money we're throwing away." So we weighed some pallets, took some data. Turns out that this small culture marble shop was throwing away $50,000 a year worth of marble, just in materials alone. The vice president of operations of the shop was not very happy. In fact, he said, "Don, get out there and fix that." And I said, "Wait a second, I've got another proposal on how we can fix that." So we went out to the operator who was working out on the floor, who was making the marble for the process. And I said, "Do you see that pallet in the corner?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "When you make a little bit extra, it goes into a 5-gallon bucket and you end up throwing that away." He says, "Yes, I know that." And I said, "See what you can do about it. See if you can reduce it. Take that pallet every day, weigh it, take it times this number, and that's how many dollars you're throwing away. See if you can reduce it." This operator kind of looked at me puzzled a little bit and thought, I'll see what I can do. Over time, over the next 2 weeks, I came back and looked at some of his numbers. He had managed to cut the waste in half, saving the company $25,000 a year. 2 months later, I came back and checked in with him, asked him for his log on waste. He looked back at me and he says, "Well, I don't keep a log anymore." A little disappointed, I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "I don't have waste anymore. I've eliminated it completely." And sure enough, upon inspection of the process, he had. Later on, he told me, he said, "Don, I was thinking about quitting my job that week when you came to me." He said, "But this project gave me a purpose. I saw what kind of an impact I could have on the company, and I've decided to look for some more." A couple of years later, he was promoted to supervisor. He had practiced the principle of autonomy, and it created some great motivation in him, unleashed his internal motivation. Another story was a parts manufacturer that I was working with, and I was out on the floor with the supervisor talking about the in-depth problems of their flow and their issues on the shop floor, and we were analyzing everything that was going on the floor when an operator came up to us with his hat in hand. The operator was from one of the lowest sections of the company, a real starter position, and he came up and he says, "Excuse me, sir, I think might know what the problem is." And he went into a 2-minute explanation of all of the things that we had just talked about. This man off the shop floor knew what they had hired me as a consultant to come in to tell them. They already knew it inside their house. No one had ever asked them. Deming says, "One of the greatest wastes in American industry is the unused talents of people." Last story, another client of mine, a cabinet shop, works 4 days a week. They work from Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days. One week they didn't get all their work done and had to come in on a Friday to finish up. The owners came in too, and they all worked together, and about lunchtime, the two owners were sitting in the front office when they turned around and all their employees were standing there. The shop foreman looked at them and said, "You know, we weren't very happy with our performance this last week. We should have done a lot better. We've talked about it, and we've decided that we don't want you to pay us for today." Wow. I still have companies that when I tell this story to, they just hardly can't believe it. But it's true. That's what happened. That should be a goal as a leader for you and your organization. Get your employees to that point. For every time I hear a manager say they can't find a good person, I always ask them, maybe you just can't find a good manager. Passion is productive.